Welcome to Beyond the Scale, the show where everyday heroes share their stories on how they turn their lives around for the healthier. I'm Coach Brittany, and today's guest is Bryce Henson. He talks about escaping a life of alcohol addiction and how a mentor can make all the difference with you and your fitness journey. Hope you enjoy. Welcome, Bryce Henson.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you today, learn more about your story. You are one that truly has that never peak mentality. So I want to get some tips and advice from you.
Yeah.
Now, you opened 5 Fit Body Bootcamp locations. You have a 7-figure income. You give back to charity. You're just doing so much. But before we get into all that, I want to take a few steps back and kind of learn more about who you are, how you grew up, and your journey through, becoming your best version of yourself.
Awesome.
So going back to childhood, I know you had faced some adversity. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I usually say I'm from, and where my story starts is Michigan. That's where I actually went to high school and college, but originally I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. And I had a happy little childhood up until I was about 10 years old. I lived there. But the reality of the situation, there was a lot of things under the scenes that were buckling. And from my perspective, being young, not really too sure what was going on, but there was a very strong line in the sand that was drawn when my parents got divorced. And it was kind of, when I look back at my history, is pre-divorce and then post-divorce. And it seemingly overnight, my mom kind of escaped us and my family to Michigan. My father suffered from some addictions, both to drugs, gambling, and alcohol, which the trifecta is definitely not conducive to a good family life. So seemingly overnight, we stayed with my grandma, and life changed, both from obviously geographically, moving from the south to the north, but financially, there was a lot of constraint and anxiety in the family. My mother, bless her heart, she did all she could, and she signed up to be a stay-at-home mom and kind of, raise her kids. And unfortunately, just due to the situation of the circumstances, had to raise us 3 kids on her own, which is certainly very challenging.
Yeah, I mean, she's got to be a great role model for you now, being able to be that strong and do what she did for you guys, you and your siblings.
Absolutely.
And now you're the oldest of your siblings, correct?
Yeah, that's right, yep.
So when all this happened, how did that affect you being the oldest?
Yeah, well, I think for whatever reason, I just kind of intuitively had a kind of a father figure type mentality and tried to do the best to be a good role model example and kind of help my siblings. So I kind of took that father figure type role, or at least that's where my mentality was. But certainly it was a very frustrating situation, being, lacking understanding, being thrown into a new culture, new environment, and, economic situation changed, just everything changed, family, friends. So initially the initial reaction was frustration, and then that, harbored into anger. And I didn't really fully, be aware of that until probably later in life, even in the last 5 or 6 years. So I wouldn't call myself an angry person, but I definitely, the seeds were planted, and thankfully I've actually used that, and channeled that into the positive to try to make, a better situation for myself, for my family, for my siblings, and obviously now with FitBody, from the community and my clients as well, and team.
Yeah, definitely helping so many people out there. So when this whole situation happened and you picked up and moved to another state, did that affect your self-image at all?
Well, I think so, definitely. And thankfully, I was always social and, had a good self-esteem on one front. But I guess the other intricacy of the story was, even though financially it was a very kind of nerve-wracking and anxious-filled setting, my uncle, who, really believed in kind of education, put us through private school. So here we were, kind of in this new environment, financially strapped, trying to make ends meet, but we were in a kind of an affluent environment. So back to the self-esteem, it never really added up. And I think probably most children don't consciously think that, but the wheels are always spinning, we're in this situation, but we're hanging out with these type of people. And it caused a lot of doubt and a feeling of not fitting in or belonging, specifically on the financial aspect.
And now when did fitness start playing a role in your life?
Yeah, so I think going through, later part of childhood into high school and whatnot, facing some of those not belonging type of feelings, and having some insecurities and, confidence issues and all that. But I put myself through school. I graduated from Michigan State, and when I graduated, I got a job in Southern California. So I landed here back in 2004, and my first year, a year and a half or so, I was in Los Angeles. And certainly coming from the Midwest, not the fitness capital or mecca of the world, and then being planted into one of the most plastic type of cities
Totally.
ever, definitely incrementally, put the focus on that, self-consciousness. So For me, fitness originally, truth be told, if I'm being really honest, was to get a better physique so I could have more confidence. And I thought that would make me, happier and be a better person. And thankfully, I, had an awesome friend that mentored me along the way, and I got the fitness result, thankfully, through his mentorship and accountability. And I got the result, which was like going after the physique, but what it gave me was just so much more. And so it's something that I never really bargained for in terms of just, the confidence, the mental clarity, the energy, performance at work. My first year, I was working for a sales position for about 10 years. And the first year I did good, but the second through the rest of the time there, I was the top performing sales agent or one of them, in the company. And fitness really gave me that. So I credit that to the health and fitness aspect.
And what do you think it was about fitness that really made you thrive in sales?
Well, I think waking up early and having a better physique gave me more confidence. I had more energy, so I was more prone to kind of make that extra call. I was happier. Most people who work out, they have the endorphins flowing. So it was just a compounded thing of many different things that added to, the production from a sales perspective that made me happy and successful. And I definitely, when I look back, kind of said pre-divorce and post-divorce, I look back at my early career and I see pre-fitness and then post-fitness in completely different, ball game.
Now, going back a little bit to your mentor that helped you through fitness, your friend.
Yeah.
Was it ever a struggle for you to stay on your fitness goals when you were working with him?
Yeah, absolutely. Go back to my fitness level. I was athletic growing up, played sports and all that, but I hadn't worked out in a very long time. So kind of coming into, working out cold turkey was definitely a different experience. And I can candidly say, that without him, I wouldn't have pushed through because, one, the lack of knowledge, I hadn't really worked out my body, ever in a gym, what to eat, the nutrition protocol and all that. And there's days that were great. There's days that were horrible that probably would have thrown in the towel. But thankfully through his guidance and mentorship, I stuck with it. In a period of probably 3 to 4 months, I started seeing good results. And I would say probably a period of 6 months, just kind of staying with him and kind of being under his guidance, rapidly changed my life.
And do you think you would have made that transformation without him being there supporting you?
Definitely not. If I'm being really honest, as much as I want to say I would have came out on top and learned it myself, maybe I would have. It just took incrementally longer, but he definitely helped tremendously, and I have a huge debt of gratitude.
Now, after you went through this transformation, did you continue working out with him, training with him, or did you kind of just start doing your own thing after that?
Yeah, well, we lived together for a period of 2 years. So I would say probably for the first 6 months, it was very intensive as I was kind of learning the ropes and kind of getting my own bearings. And then the following, year plus, we definitely worked out together as well. And then when we kind of, went separate ways in terms of living situation, then it was just kind of up to me. But at that point, I already had acquired the tools that I needed, and certainly am still, growth mindset, a student of fitness, health, and life. So I'm learning always. But at that point, I established a good base where I could kind of run with that and make fitness my own.
Okay. And now, Fit Body Bootcamp, when were you first introduced to Fit Body?
Oh, shoot. So from that experience, I ended up being inspired, and I thought to myself, fitness changed my life. I want to give that back to, other people. So I got accredited through as a certified personal trainer through NASM. And I got on the list of ours truly, Bedros Keuilian, and started following him and seeing some of the content that he had. At that point in my time in life, I was already successful in my sales career, so I was focused at that. So I thought, maybe personal training or some sort of fitness would just be kind of ancillary on the side. So I followed him for a period of time, ended up moving abroad, lived in Brazil for a couple years while I was following, Bedros and, seeing some seeds of Fit Body being planted. Right. But it wasn't until 2012 in the spring when I decided I was going to come back to California when I took a serious look. And then I put through an expressive interest, started that process, talked to a lot of owners, and liked what I saw. And I think going back to my fitness mentor, what the thing about Fit Body Bootcamp that really appealed to me is, we just talked about my best friend Adam, being my fitness mentor, right? And I, just as I mentioned, I probably wouldn't be where I am today in terms of fitness without him. So I thought to myself, the Fit Body Bootcamp model is not just an open gym concept where it's hey, here's, the equipment, you figure it out. It had accountability, mentorship, guidance, coaching. And for me, that's where the light bulb went off. And I thought to myself, that coaching helped me incrementally. I know that with coaching, other people will, follow the same suit.
So you faced a lot of challenges growing up. Has any of that trickled into your adult life that has played an effect on you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, everyone has their cross to bear, and I'm no different. And in my childhood, what I saw was, and I didn't know this at the time, but addiction, specifically to alcohol and some other things, really, caused chaos in my life. And ruined my family's life, and my mom put us on a completely different trajectory. So, for me going through my adult life, what I realized is, it was a really big realization that I suffer from the same, addictive behavior and, genetic disposition to alcoholism. And as that part of my story goes, as I went through college, and I probably drank alcohol my first high school party or something like that, but just as a normal kind of kids do going through the end of high school and college. But what I realized was after college kind of happened, I still would drink more so and kind of overshoot the mark more than I wanted to admit. And I realized that was a serious problem and that needed to be fixed. And truth be told, though, I didn't do it immediately. It probably carried through my mid to late 20s. And truth be told, when I think of an alcoholic, I think of, or someone with that sort of problem, I think of someone without a job that drinks alcohol every day, all day, that is a bum on the street or whatever the case may be. And simply put, that was never me. For me, it was infrequent. So not with a lot of frequency at all. But when I did drink alcohol, I used it as a kind of a release or escape mechanism. Unfortunately, I would, if I'm being really honest, I overshot the mark and kind of would drink it into excess, kind of in a binge mentality. So, that was an issue of my, childhood. And, as I, kind of progressed and saw that, through a different lens in my adult years, and seeing, a family member kind of go through the same struggles and trials and tribulations, I had a big aha moment. And it started kind of the same emotion, frustration, being frustrated, looking back at where my family had came from, seeing, one of my other family members struggle with this, seeing myself struggle with this. And I thought to myself, how long are the chains of addiction going to continue? If not now, then when, right? And that frustration, turned to anger, and I got, really upset. And thankfully, I looked at it from the lens I let that, fuel and drive me to do something about it. And am I perfect? Is everything all good? No, I'll be the first one to tell you that's not the case. I have my good days and bad. But at the end of 2016, I made a decision to, reach out, change my life, get some help, and have been proactive and active in a 12-step program, which has been just a big game changer for my life.
Well, congratulations on that. I mean, I think that is a huge achievement for you to make. And I think your story also can help so many people out there because, like you said, you think of someone that doesn't have a job, that drinks all day, but there's so many internal battles that you fight that people have no idea about.
Absolutely. And I think for me, that's my cross. And but that hopefully is translatable in whether, it's addiction, whether it be alcohol, drugs, food, sugar, whatever the case may be, everyone has their struggle. So, I'm hoping in a very vulnerable setting that that my story will, help someone else.
Absolutely. Now, when you came to the realization that you did suffer from alcoholism and the addiction, was it more of people telling you that, saying signs like, are you okay, whatever the case may be, or was it more of an internal realization, comparing yourself?
I think probably big picture, it was more of an internal realization. Certainly people close to me, my better half Tatiana made some observations at times and whatnot. But again, because it wasn't a very frequent, sort of situation, it wasn't known, and probably known for me for a long time, to truth be told, because I had that kind of vision. But through some traumatic stuff, just again with seeing one of my other family members, that was kind of straw that broke the camel's back for me. And I thought to myself, okay, maybe it doesn't look or appear that I have an issue, but if I'm really being honest with myself, I had to take a long look in the mirror and kind of being growth mindseted, trying to be the best person I possibly can be, and have my great days and bad days. But I made the decision that in order to kind of get to my optimal health, optimal fitness, be the best role model for my family, for my clients, for my community, I definitely needed to make a change.
How does alcoholism impact your fitness journey?
Well, I mean, just generally speaking, from a health and fitness perspective, it's absolutely horrible for alcohol to the body, what it does, how it is metabolized in the body. and the effects that it has. But in a very ironic kind of twist, what I think, and I look at myself, like the addictive behavior that I have, and I genuinely know that alcoholism is a genetic disease. So it's just something that typically is passed on, through the genes. And I look at it, for me, while it's kryptonite in one sense, it is actually a fuel to progress in the other. And when I say this is, my addictive, personality, I'm usually, all in, sixth gear the whole way at anything that I do. So while alcohol specifically is used in a bad context if I consume it, that kind of same mentality of like all or nothing going in is actually helped with my fitness journey because, really, if you look at alcoholism the way I kind of perceive it, it's an excess. And I guess from my perspective, what I'm trying to get at is as I've used that kind of same mentality to for the positive, for the light, and worked really hard at my fitness and my business and my family relationships, and used that kind of excess kind of mentality into positive things instead of negative.
Got it. So basically taking a negative addiction and replacing it with a positive addiction.
That's well put.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So, you've made your way through your fitness journey, opened all these Fit Body Bootcamp locations, and now you have your family involved. Were you the one that got them started on their fitness journeys, or did they kind of take their own routes?
Well, I think a little bit of both. Okay. My family kind of growing up, was athletic. My sister was into sports. My brother was in sports at a very high level. So that kind of like fundamental baseline athletic and fitness focus was always there. I was the one to kind of take the leap of faith and to kind of spearhead the Fit Body, kind of opportunity and business model within our communities and with our family. But it's, definitely been a joint venture, and it's been a really rewarding thing to kind of work with people that are really close to me that have, big hearts, and it stems from my mother. Bless her heart, she's a giver, and she's, of service to, the world. And I think, myself and my siblings learned a lot from her, and it's been an awesome ride.
Awesome. From your whole story, she sounds like an amazing role model, someone to definitely look up to. She's clearly raised great kids. So,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you also, later on in life moved out of the country for a while, right?
I did,
Where did you move to?
I moved to Brazil, a little island in the very south called Florianopolis.
And now, what type of challenges did you face moving to a brand new country?
Oh my goodness, I'm a challenge seeker, I guess, so it's just kind of ingrained in my DNA. So from moving from, I guess when I was younger, from Georgia to Michigan, then taking the leap of faith, moving to California. And I was blessed to kind of travel and have some really cool travel experiences. And I got in my mind that I wanted at some point to live in a different country, culture, and learn a different language. And I visited Rio de Janeiro, Brazil back in 2008, and it was just blown away. So I thought to myself, it would be a really, great challenge to test my mettle, if you will, move to an island in the very south of the world, didn't know anyone, didn't speak the language, didn't know the culture. It was incredibly challenging. It was incredibly rewarding as well. A lot of highs and lows in that first period, but without a shadow of a doubt, not being able to communicate, through, with people, and living in a culture and a language that, I was unfamiliar with, was very, very difficult at first.
Definitely pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. But hey, that's exactly how you get growth minded, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so now I want to know, if you could give one health tip, what would that be?
This is so basic, but it's never, I feel like it's underutilized, is drink a gallon of water a day. There is so many people, and most of our clients are dehydrated all the time. We tend to overeat, and there's obviously really bad effects when your body's dehydrated. So the simple tip of drinking enough water will actually pay dividends down the road.
Got it. Okay, so a gallon a day?
Gallon a day. That seems extreme. And I guess technically speaking, everyone's a little bit different, in terms of your height and weight and all that. But a gallon would be a good benchmark and definitely provides you a lot of health benefits.
All right, perfect. I'm going to start drinking my gallon today then.
There you go.
So kind of wrapping it up here, I want to know, what does living beyond the scale mean to you?
That's a great question, and I love the podcast, and living behind the scale is incredible in many rights. I think for me, both being a fitness professional and also being a businessman, a scale is a metric, right? Mm-hmm. And it's extremely important both in your fitness level or as a business owner to have metrics. Without metrics and taking inventory, your fitness is going to be out of whack, your business is going to be out of whack. So it's extremely important. But really, the metric is only the front line. all the magic that happens, whether on the business side, the fulfillment of helping your community, impacting more people, or on the fitness side of gaining more confidence and mental clarity and energy and be able to have a bigger impact in the world, all that is beyond the metric or beyond the scale. So that's where the beauty happens, that's where the magic happens, and I think for me, that's what it means.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It was beautifully said. If anyone wants to visit any of Bryce's locations, where can they go to visit your locations, Bryce?
Yeah, well, we have 3 in Southern California, here in Orange County, Yorba Linda, Mission Viejo, and San Marcos, which is in San Diego. And then we have a location in Michigan called West Bloomfield Fit Body Boot Camp. So come check us out.
All right, so for any of you that may not be in Bryce's area and you still want to visit a Fit Body Boot Camp location, go ahead and visit fitbodybootcamp.com to claim your free 3 sessions today. Thank you again, Bryce, for sharing your story with us. I think you're going to impact so many people. I know I've already learned a lot from you.
Awesome.
And I'm excited to see all the success and good that you do in this world because I know you're not even close to hitting your peak yet.
Thank you, Brittany.
Did you know that you could have done a full workout in the amount of time it took you to listen to this podcast? Go to fitbodybootcamp.com to claim your 3 free sessions now. And remember to join me next Tuesday so you can see who our special guest is. Until then, remember to live a fit body, fit mind forever.